Okay, Success Nation, this is your host Michael Nguyen from Asiansuccess show, where successful entrepreneurs show you how they build companies and achieve success. I have Robert Laing. He's the co-founder and chief executive of Gengo, a global and people-powered translation platform enabling everyone to read and publish across languages with one click. Well, Gengo, they have an office in Japan and also an office in California. And so, Robert, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael. Great to be here.
Excellent. And so, Robert, are you prepared to inspire?
Yeah, I am.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So, Robert, just given our listener just an overview about you. So take a minute and tell us about you personally, because we want to get to know you, and then give us an overview about Gengo.
Sure. I've been living in Japan for about 7 years. My background is as a designer. So I started my career doing web design. And then 5 years ago, started Gengo because as a designer in Japan, I was building websites for corporate clients. And I always needed really simple things to be translated. But there was no simple, affordable solution. And so I ended up asking my wife a lot of the time. And that's not really a scalable solution. So together with my co-founder, who is an American Japanese guy named Matt, we decided to build something really simple that would address that problem. We knew that we wanted to leverage human-powered translation, so we didn't want to use machines. And we just built a very simple crowdsourced service from the start. And now, 5 years later, we raised a bunch of money, we built up the service, we have bigger enterprise customers now, and Gengo is becoming a well-known brand in the translation industry. And so we've created a startup in Tokyo that's very Silicon Valley style, but it still has that Japanese element to it. And it all comes back to being a foreigner in Japan and needing translation.
Wow, excellent. I'm so eager to get to know you more during the show. I'll start with the guest favorite success quote as a way of getting the motivational ball rolling. So, Robert, what is your favorite success quote, and how do you apply it to your everyday life?
Yeah, I would say create true honesty in your business. And what I mean by that is, as you build up a company, as you build a startup, it's very tempting to kind of believe your own hype, or it's very tempting to believe in something without any evidence. So when you're starting a company, you might have a great idea that you think is really good. You might talk to people about it, and you might not often get really honest feedback. But you've got to really search for that. You've got to really figure out, is your idea something that people are really going to buy? Is it really something that you can grow and scale as a business? And as you do things like build a website, launch a product, start selling, you've got to try and get feedback as early as possible on what's really working and what's not. And so, for instance, do people even want to buy your product? It's very easy for entrepreneurs to go on for a long time without actually having any real customers. Or if you hire a team member, are they really working out? Like, are they performing well? Are they fitting in with your company? It's very easy to let those sort of small issues build up if you don't address them straight away and if you're not honest. And so I believe in trying to create true honesty, true authenticity with your team. And as you build up into a bigger company at the management level, it's essential. It's essential to have a really good, honest working relationship with the people you work with. It's really essential to know what their personalities are and what they like and what they don't like, how they do things. And it's really essential to be very frank and open in your conversations, because if you're not, your business can end up operating on false assumptions. Your business can not address issues that really need to be addressed. And it's surprising how many companies or how many people fall into that trap. They might be working on something for several years, where if they were really getting down to the core issues, they would be making much better decisions and making much stronger decisions for the company. So that's something that we try to do at Gengo.
Excellent. Yeah. So you use honesty and telling the truth as your guidance throughout all your decisions.
It sounds really simple. It sounds really obvious, but it's surprising that if you apply that to every single decision every day and every statement that you make in the company, it's surprising how things change. And so I would advise people to basically never, ever, ever tell a lie.
Well, when your company is growing bigger and bigger and become a global brand, how do you prevent sort of the sugarcoating cultures from slipping into the company?
Yeah, it's really tough. If you take sales, for example, It's very tempting for salespeople to go out there and say, "Oh, our product does all that. We've got it all covered." It's very tempting because you can maybe make a sale and maybe make the customer happy at the beginning. But what happens is obviously, 2 weeks later, maybe the customer finds out the product wasn't that good, or the customer finds out they, didn't get exactly what they wanted. And what we found is that you really have to drum it home. You have to really educate people that, when we go out and sell Gengo, for instance, we tell people this might not be right for your needs. This might not be the right service for you. This is exactly what you're going to get from Gengo. It looks like this. Maybe you don't like that. But what the benefit is for the sales teams is you can then be seen as an expert. So the customer can then trust you more because you're being honest about your own service. Maybe you're even recommending someone else's services if ours don't fit. And what it means is you become not someone who's trying to fool the customer into buying something, but you become an expert about your industry. And that's actually really beneficial. So when salespeople can see that, they can go, oh, actually, that's a better way of selling. It's a better relationship with my customer. And if I ever leave Gengo and join another company, I'm a more respected person. And then I think that the other sort of very tempting place to sugarcoat stuff is with investors or prospective investors and existing investors, right? So, classic startup pitch, you've got the hockey stick going up and to the right always, and that's where we're going to be in 3 years. And I think that it's a much, much better conversation with investors if you can, portray excitement about your business, portray the possibilities, but also be very, very honest about the weaknesses that you have. And so one of the things we do with investors now at Gengo is we really talk about, okay, here are some of the problems that Gengo has. Here are the ways that we're trying to address that. And if you invest in our business, you've got to be okay with that status quo. And that has it's just a better relationship. So if you have an investor who knows all about our business and we're very transparent with, when we are successful and we are pretty successful, it means that they know that's based on truth and they know that what we're reporting, it makes sense and they can believe it. And so if they want to put more money in or they just want to stick with the company, they know that they can rely on that. And it's just a better relationship.
So you think that if the Japanese culture has anything to do with the way that you operate, the way that you set the honesty and telling the truth from the beginning?
I think that what we find in Japan, and we're a bunch of foreigners and Japanese people. We have about 12 different nationalities in the office. I think that our culture is a mixture of Japan and everywhere else. But what it really is it's people who are having to figure out how to communicate across cultures, not just within one culture. And I think that the successes we've had there have been about being upfront and articulating what's going on. And so it's very easy, for instance, for maybe a British person and a Japanese person and a Thai person to avoid talking about things because it's hard to talk. And we found that the only way to get around that is to basically make people speak up, make people, whether they're junior or senior, make them say what's going on. And so Gengo culture is this mixture. It's a bit of Japanese, it's a bit of everything. But what it has in real common is that everybody is encouraged to communicate or over communicate so that we all know what's going on. An example is like every day we do video conference stand-up meetings with our US office and our Japanese office. And that can be a little bit painful and annoying and boring at times. But if we don't do it, what happens is like a week later, people will say like, oh, I didn't know about that thing, or like Tom didn't tell me about that, and why didn't I, so we have to pay that tax. But it really works, and it means that people in the Tokyo office and the US office, they know what's going on. They don't get confused about what the priorities are or how to do stuff. So that paying that tax, it really works.
Japanese hardly speak up to their superiors. Does that happen to you sometimes?
So I would say the type of people that we try to hire at Gengo, startup people. So they're not normally people who've worked for a long time in a big organization. They're not normally people who want this big hierarchy. They're normally people who are a little bit weird. So to get someone to join, when we were 2 or 3 people, how would you get someone to join Gengo at that stage? We're not a credible company. We look kind of weird. So we attracted a bunch of weirdos, and we're all weird, right? So So I would say we have people from the Japanese culture, but maybe not from that very sort of conservative business background. We have more people who want to do something different. You know, they want to learn English, they want to work at a startup, they're interested in the Silicon Valley way of doing things. And so, yeah, it might be quite hard for someone who comes from a really rigid, like big Japanese corporation to come and work at Gengo, but we don't tend to attract those kind of guys. Neither either in Japan or in the US or wherever else. We don't tend to attract those really, really traditional type of characters.
Now, when operating your business in Japan, what lesson did you learn from Japan that entrepreneurs everywhere can learn and benefit from?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that am always impressed about with Japan is just the level of service and attention to detail. So, you know, just for instance, if you fly a Japanese airline versus an American airline, you know, I can tell you which one I'd rather fly. And you know that goes down to airline or a shop or customer service on the phone. You know, it's very, very hard to please a Japanese customer because they expect a very high level of service, even for very mundane things. And so, as a startup, you know, you've got something which is only half built. It's a product that doesn't really work very well yet, you know. And so in Japan, you've got to go like, okay, I've got this thing that isn't that great, and I've got to serve these customers who have very high expectations. And that was very difficult for us. You know, that was very difficult for us at the beginning because we would have this kind of prototype service, and we're trying to please people who are used to really, really, really good products and really good services. But what we've tried to do is, you know, as we've grown, customer support is very, very important to us. We hold ourselves to very high standards in terms of reply time, in terms of the customer satisfaction ratings that we get. And we spend quite a lot of money there and spend quite a lot of time. But we believe that, you know, that makes our customers happier, obviously. It gives us better feedback about what's going well and what isn't. And so it's been really beneficial to the company. And I'd like to think that we try to introduce a Japanese level of customer service to the US or to Europe or other places where we operate. And it makes people go, wow, that's great. And so, you know, one of the things we do actually around the world now is if you have a bad experience with Gengo, or if you have a good experience with Gengo, we'll send you a little package. Like we send you a little gift package with some tea and some biscuits in it in the mail. Like people don't expect it. It's sort of comes out of nowhere. And it's kind of related to, I don't know if you've ever read Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh, but the guy who started Zappos, you know, that idea of wowing the customer. You know, we have our own little wow program. And so that, you know, comes from the Japanese idea of great service.
Go back to your point earlier that when you're at the startup stage, then you have to build some prototyping to sort of get some feedback from the customers. And but with their high level of expectation from customer service, tell me, how do you score your first customers?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, at the beginning, you don't really know what you're doing. Like we didn't know anything. So, so you know, the very first customers who use Gengo, really, we have no idea where they came from. It's funny because like you're trying to figure out how do I reach customers, how do I sell, and then randomly some people come in through the internet and then they just buy some stuff. And I think at the beginning we, you know, really didn't know. But I think that now, you know, we have a much better idea of who our customers are. And so the people who visit Gengo.com are normally individuals and small businesses. They normally want to translate something quite simple. It's a PowerPoint, it's a Word document, that kind of thing. They normally want it in quite a quick turnaround time, and they want a really simple service. And so we've catered our service to create something where within just a couple of clicks, you can get a translation back. And we find a lot of those customers through search engine. So we do a lot of SEO, we do a lot of search engine marketing. We pay a lot of money to Google every month. But that's a good way of finding those people. You know, they're searching for translation services, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, you know, in Japan especially, we have a lot of people doing kind of internal document translation. And so you're getting more and more people in Japanese companies like Rakuten, like fast retailing. A lot of those guys are actually forced to use English in their everyday lives. And so Gengo can be a really great service for them if they've got an internal document they need to translate for a presentation or they need to reach a client. And so we find those guys by being very simple, very approachable, being very fast. And that works very, very well for us.
Okay, so just to summarize, and some of the lesson, the top lesson that entrepreneurs should learn from applying from your story of applying Japanese culture to business is the amount of attention to details.
Yeah, attention to detail and high level of customer service. And I'm a I'm a designer by background, and so I'm picky, and yeah, like whether it's a document or an email or presentation, we have high standards for ourselves.
What is another lesson that you learn from the Japanese cultures that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, I think that one of the other things that Japanese companies do very, very well is they're very dependable. So it takes a long time often to do a deal with a Japanese customer. It might take a year, might take a year and a half or something.
Is it for a
But
big one or just for
for a
regular?
big one, for a big
For a
one,
big one.
yeah, yeah. For $100 translation, thankfully it doesn't take that long. But for a big deal. But the thing that happens is once you have that deal, then it's there. You can depend on it, and you can depend on if you have a good relationship with that customer, they're going to keep on ordering. They will help you. They will introduce you to other people. It's a really long-term relationship, and I think that that's something in the UK or the US, for instance, that isn't that common anymore, especially in sort of startup and tech. And it's something that it takes a long time as a startup to build up those kind of relationships, but when you have them, they're very, very valuable. And so people really put a lot of trust in relationships in Japan. People invest a lot in those relationships, but it can pay off for businesses that can use those relationships really well. So being a trustworthy company, being a company that hits its deadlines, being a company that delivers, that's very, very important because it keeps the relationship going. And so we try to be a company that does that. We try to be a company that, although we're a startup, like we do real work, and it's a very, very difficult job that we do. And we like to believe that our success is based on something that's very hard to take away. Like we built a platform that is very defensible, that delivers good translation all the time, millions of words every week. It's very hard to take that away from us. And so we try to be a company that's here for the long term, even though we're growing fast and we're a startup.
So you're saying
try to
that
have that.
Japanese customers, they are very hard to acquire, but once they
Yeah,
become your customers, it's like a long-term relationship. They refer, they
yeah,
help you to grow.
yeah, that's right.
And I'm curious. So you said that you born in Australia, and then
Yep.
same thing in America. People like people they just want to get down to business. And
Yeah.
when you come to do business in Japan, and apparently the culture is like just upside down. You have to play golf with them, have some cup of tea with them. It takes like years. How does that? How is that? How do you deal with that?
Well, Gengo is always a mix, right? And so we can operate in that world. We can operate in the US world as well. We have lots of valuable customers in the US, and I'd like to think that we can take a bit of the best of both worlds. That's always what Gengo is trying to do. I'm Australian and British, and I have some British aspects to me that are maybe too British sometimes. But I work with my American colleagues and my Japanese colleagues, and we try to balance it out. So I don't, I would go back to this thing again of like, we're not trying to be 100% Japanese. We're not trying to be 100% American, but we're trying to take the really good parts of both. And so we've built up a sales team that can, we can do deals in Japan. We can do deals in the US. We built up marketing that works in both countries. We've built up a translation service that works with both. And I think that, what it comes down to, if you look at successful products and services that bridge cultures, they're normally just very high quality products. Like an iPhone, it's attractive to a Japanese buyer, it's attractive to an American buyer. It's a very, very high quality product. And we would like to achieve something like that level of quality at Gengo. It may take us several years to do that, but that's the aspiration.
As you saying. So as an entrepreneur, what is your proudest moment that you ever
My
had?
proudest moment. I think that before you start a company, you often think that it's going to be like raising money. You think that's going to be great, or you think that we've never done this, but maybe selling your company or something like that. But I've found that really my proudest moments at Gengo is looking at staff that we hire very young, very inexperienced, and the level that those staff reach after they've been at Gengo for a few years and they've just built up knowledge and experience, and they're doing great. So we have some people at Gengo who we've hired, entry level or even interns, and now they're running whole teams. They're running, they're processing kind of millions of dollars of business every quarter. That makes me proud. Like that's the best thing, because the money that we maybe make, it's fun, and raising money is kind of fun, and having a big brand is kind of fun. But ultimately, the people you work with every day, seeing them succeed, seeing them enjoy themselves, seeing them build up skills, and eventually, if they ever leave Gengo, going and getting like a great job or starting their own company like that, that's the reason why startups are fun, and that's the reason why I love working at Gengo.
I so relate to you with that because I have a designer which I hired from online about 6-7 months ago, and then the first time
Yeah,
I had to direct him, guide him everything. But now it's like here we go, here's your ball, just go and take it to next
yeah,
level, and then
yeah,
you can see that his comfort level increase over time and over time. Totally relate
yeah,
to that.
yeah. It's very rewarding. So that's what I love.
Excellent. What is your global vision of Gengo as a global game changer for the language and translating and stuff?
Yeah, so the translation market is interesting. It's a $35 billion market. It's a big market, but it's very fragmented. And so if you look at the top 10 translation agencies, they control less than 1% of the market in a way. So it's very fragmented. You've got thousands of like little mom and pop businesses, one or two person translation shops. It's very hard for all those guys to differentiate themselves because they're built on a very traditional model. It's an agency model. They have lots of project managers. They have lots of people just running around doing manual stuff. Gango is completely different. So we built up technology platform. When jobs come in, they're automatically allocated to translators. We have a very scalable system. We also have a very approachable front end. So people who don't know anything about translation can order through us very easily. And all that adds up to us being able to really take on that market and become, we think the best known player in translation in the world. And so if you think about technology, you'll think, okay, Apple and Microsoft, Intel, there's a few companies that are household names there. If you think about translation, there's no household name. Like nobody knows the name of a translation company. Nobody walking down the street has ever even ordered translation before. And what we want to do is make it possible for anyone to get translation, whether or not they're publishing their own content or reading it, maybe like reading the New York Times in Chinese, or maybe, publishing their tweets in different languages to reach different friends. We want to reach the stage where everyone's very used to doing that. And frankly, I think, that's it's quite a noble thing. If we can get the world communicating, that's really great. So our vision is to make translation an everyday thing. And we can only do that by being quite a large global company. So the side effect of that is, Gengo becomes big. We have more employees. We have more people using our system. But that aim is, get everybody talking, get everybody communicating. And translation is the first part of that. There might be more that we do beyond translation. We'll see. But right now, going back to 2014, we're just working really hard on building a strong and profitable company. We've got a long way to go, but we have a big vision.
Man, it's just an amazing idea. You use combined technology and using API and just to enable so many translation and languages being translated. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, we have fun. It's when it works, it's really great. And the experience of getting a little translation back in a couple of minutes. The funny thing is, it often seems very simple to a customer, and we want it to seem simple. We don't really want the customer to have to think about how it gets done. But in the background, there's a huge amount of operations. There's technical platform. There's translators working. There's people picking up jobs in Nigeria or Spain or South America, and there's an amazing amount of like hard work being done. And the most important thing we've realized when we build up our platform is our customers are really important, but our translators are really important as well. And so we spend a lot of time looking after our translator community, trying to give them, skills and trying to give them great software that allows them to do their job more quickly. And so all that stuff is happening in the background. But yeah, it's cool and I
That's
love it.
amazing. I mean, when you first started, you could have picked the traditional agency model, but you didn't. You went with this model.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not interested in building an agency. I worked in agencies as a designer. That's all you do. And it's fun. It's fun to work on projects and it's fun to work with clients, but it's not a very scalable business. It's very hard to scale that kind of business. It's very hard to differentiate. It's very people based. So, if your senior creative director guy leaves, the whole company's at risk. I think anyone who's watched Mad Men, like, they know how tough it is to run an agency. So we wanted to build a technology company. We wanted to build something that could scale. And really, my co-founder and I we approached it knowing kind of nothing about translation. We knew how to build systems. We knew how to do marketing. So we've approached it from a completely different perspective, and I'm very glad we did because we think it's more scalable, more fun, and we think it's very disruptive.
Gotcha. Um, so, Robert, do you have some internet resources like Evernote that you're in love with and you want to share with the audience?
Funnily enough, I'm a super simple guy now. Like the only, as if you look at when I started Gengo, I was doing all the design and I was doing a lot of programming as well. And I was using like 50 different pieces of software, and I used to be an expert in Photoshop and all this kind of stuff. And as you go on and as the company gets bigger, I kind of use PowerPoint, Gmail, and Excel. Those are my kind of top tips. The app I use a lot now as well is called Simple Note. I don't know if you know that one. Yeah, and it's a desktop and iOS and probably Android application. And then the nice thing is it's just super, super simple and it synchronizes across your device without you having to do anything. And so Simple Note I use every day. But yeah, I'm a basic guy. The other one that we use all the time at Gengo, because we do a lot of video conferencing. And so we use Skype a lot, but we also use Zoom now. It's a company called Zoom, which is just a video conferencing tool. And if you do video conferencing every day or like 50 times a day, which is what Gengo does, like you have to have a tool that is actually reliable and it works and you can invite people and it doesn't freeze and all the kind of like really basic stuff. And we've been through a dozen different tools. We tried like Hangout, we tried GoToMeeting, we tried using Skype, and Zoom is the only one that's actually stuck. And so that's my other recommendation. But yeah, pretty basic stuff.
And I'm curious, as a CEO and founders of a global company, what are some of the personal habits that you believe that contribute to your success?
Yeah, that's a funny one. I mean, I'm a guy who gets up super early, so yeah, I get up super early. It's kind of annoying to some other people in the company, but I'm out of bed always by 6. And I've spent a lot of time studying Japanese actually, and so to be honest with you, like at the beginning of the day, I'm very effective, and then I just go down and down. And so by 9 p.m., I'm incapable of doing anything basically. So I try to do all the stuff I need to do very early in the morning. So some mornings I'll be studying Japanese. I try to exercise very regularly. I don't know if that's anything to do with the success of Gengo. And then I'm normally in the office before 8, and I try to get work done before the day starts in a way, because once the day starts, you have a bunch of meetings, you have all these distractions, and it's very hard to get like really solid personal work done. And I think that it's always very tempting for people in companies to spend a lot of time in meetings and to spend a lot of time just buzzing back and forth. But it's very important for me to have some personal time where I'm just working on an idea or putting something together. And so I've tried to maintain that as the company grows. But yeah, my only I don't know, my only habit is like start early. Yeah, also like a very people accuse me of being a very impatient guy. Like if something isn't working, like if a meeting is not being run effectively, I do not allow that, I guess. So it can be a little bit frustrating for people, working for me if they don't run meetings effectively or if they don't know how to put together a slide. I'm very critical of that. But I think it helps the company run efficiently, and I think it helps us not to spend too much time on non-productive stuff.
I know that we're running out of time, so I had one last question for you. So if you could recommend one book to my audience, what would it be?
Yeah, my favorite business author is a guy called Patrick Lencioni, and he's an American guy, and he has a book called The Advantage. Yeah, it's called The Advantage, and it's a book which it covers a bunch of topics, but it's really about how to build up good management in your company, and that management is all based on clarity of objectives, of personal styles, of the company vision. And I think it's just a really great handbook for new managers or people who are finding it's difficult to manage the different responsibilities that they have. So I found it to be a great book because one of the biggest challenge you'll have as a startup is normally probably not technology. It's probably not just super fancy stuff. It's often down to just people management. It's one of the most difficult things, and I think that book is just a really good framework for new managers to pick up those skills.
So Success Nation, if you haven't already, you can get the audio version of this book or any book you want by going to asiansuccessbook.com. And Robert, I would wish to chat more with you because there's so many things that I need to ask you. I'm so interested in asking you about how you grow a company and things like that, but apparently that we're out of time. Probably we can chat later on. And but I really enjoy talking to you and the journey that you've been through. And give Success Nation one parting piece of guidance and share the best way we can reach you, and then we say goodbye.
Yeah, so check out gengo.com. That's the best thing you can do. So if you want a short translation, you want something quick, simple, or if you need to translate at very high volume, we do that really well as well. So visit gengo.com. It's been really fun talking to you. I love talking about Gengo, so it's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time and your experience today.
Great. Thanks a lot, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.